Okay, with Sammy Verni, Low Down Larry versus the Giant Reptile could be one of the best names of a short film that I've seen in a long time because it's just great. It stands out. 7 minutes long. We played at the Fantasy Sci-Fi Festival, but it's also an animation film. And in your synopsis, it says in their latest adventure together, Larry and Spike set out. So, is there previous films of this series?
There is. This is actually the second film in the series.
Okay.
The first one came out about 5 years ago, and that one is called Low Down Larry Conquers the Moon Men. That one takes place in space. So same characters, but obviously different adventure for the two characters.
But this is standalone, so you don't have to watch the first film to understand this film, right?
Correct, correct. It's standalone. There is, if you when you watch this film, there is a small Easter egg in the beginning of the film that references the events of the first film. You have to sort of be kind of eagle-eyed to catch it. But yeah, otherwise it's a standalone adventure. Yes.
All right, so I've been fortunate enough to watch a lot of animation short films, like thousands, and yours stands out in many ways. Let's talk about the style of animation. How do you categorize it? Is it clay animation? How do you kind of categorize the animation style?
It's clay. I mean, the person who helped me do the puppets, his name is Lenny Chico, and he's been collaborator and friend for about 40 years now. So I've known him since I was a kid. And he worked on the puppets, and he did, I think, a fantastic job building them and doing most of the animation for them. And we both did the animation together, but he did sort of the lion's share of the animation of that. But yeah, it's not really clay. It's called cosplay. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's sort of like an amalgam of clay and some kind of resin where it doesn't harden, and it sort of acts like latex. So it's sort of like, it's not quite latex, so it's not a latex puppet, but it's not quite clay either. It's sort of like a mix between the two, and it sort of keeps the puppets flexible and very bendable. And I mean, like everything else, if you if you have something too long, it starts to like deteriorate and crack and everything. But considering the time span that we spent filming the movie, which was about 3.5 years, it held up pretty well, I think, everything.
3.5 years. So the two of you did everything, I'm assuming.
Well, no, I had some other people too. Someone named Tana Cadena Vunier. She's the art director. She did actually the Larry and Spike puppets. She did those. Lenny did the dinosaurs. She did the actual the two main characters and some of the background. She did the tent. She did actually the poster. She did the blueprint for the movie where you see like the steps of how to catch the dinosaur. She did that. So she's actually another very talented artist who helped me out on the first film as well.
Cosplay, right?
Cosplay, yep.
I honestly have never seen a film. I've never seen this. It looks amazing.
Thank
It,
you, thank you.
this needs to be I don't know. I'm sure you've thought of this, and I'm sure maybe this is perhaps your dream, but this needs to be a TV show.
Well, it was funny when I got the audience reaction video, in which I loved. I mean, it was really great, especially the first person, the woman, because she referenced Land of the Lost, and I didn't think anyone knew what Land of the Lost was anymore. So when she said that, I'm like, wow, this is someone who really, knows what the style is, what we're going for here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is the second in the series, so I mean, and I do have plans for a third one, sort of bubbling, in my imagination. It will take place underwater, but that's all I'll say about it right now. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a few times that, sort of the people asking, oh, are there going to be more? And it should be a series. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, it is a series in a way of, very small independent films. But yeah, this is number two in the series. So it is, I guess it is by definition a series.
So the first one space, second one dinosaurs, third one water. So you're kind of moving in different kind of
Like, yeah,
yeah.
different levels of of reality. Yeah.
Yeah. But Land of the Lost, that was people remember that as a Will Ferrell bomb back in 20 years ago, I guess, right? They tried to reinvent it, and it was just terrible.
They remember that. I mean, obviously I'm old enough to remember the 1970s
Yeah.
show. But yeah, I mean, hearing that though is actually a good compliment, to us, because I was like, oh, that's, she definitely knew what we were going for. She knew the style. She understood what the genre was, and So yeah, I mean, those are those are like TV
Yeah.
shows and films that were important to us when we were kids. So yeah, definitely an
But by the way,
inspiration.
the remake, my subjective opinion that it was terrible. I just like if people liked it, they can like it, right? So obviously, like I remember watching in
That's
the theater. I'm like, what is this?
to each his and her own. But yeah, I wouldn't go near that with a 10-foot pole. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
And I remember being in the theater with somebody who watched the series in the 70s, and they were so excited, and they were like, they were there was tears of sadness because it wasn't executed like they wanted it to. So
No,
anyway,
because I think there's more than one way to do that. I mean, I think you could do it in a way, obviously, um, that would be respecting the original. You know, like sort of like what the Brady Bunch did. The Brady Bunch movies, like no one knew what to expect of those movies when they remade them in the '90s. You know, for the '70s show, and
yeah.
they kind of like they found a good middle ground where they're kind of spoofing it, but they're kind of respecting it at the same time. You know, so I think that's kind of the balance you want when you kind of revise these things from the
Yeah,
'70s. You know.
tone wise, that's very difficult because you are right. The Brady Bunch is it was genius the way they did that. You're 100% correct. So, all right, so let's go. Let's talk about this film. So, okay, 3.5 years, 7 minutes, 3.5 years. So you're doing the animation, right? So basically, I'll give you perfect the best so I can understand what you do. So there's a close up of the dog, right? The dog's wagging
Right.
its tongue, it's wagging its tail. It may be a 5 second shot. How so you basically just have to do it frame by frame, like
Yeah. Yeah. I
meticulously.
mean, that's Yeah, I mean, what I was doing was for this, there's two ways of doing stop motion. Well, two main ways. One is when you shoot on ones, when you shoot on twos. Okay, so for this film, we shot on twos, meaning that basically it's one movement and then 2 frames are taken. Next movement, 2 frames are taken, and so on and so on. Usually in something more like something that Harryhausen would do or something like that, or Phil Tippett or one of those guys more professional, Tim Burton. It's it's like 1-to-1. It's like, one frame, one movement, 1 frame, 1 movement. So
Okay.
we kind of do it in a way that's a little bit of a cheat, a little bit of a shortcut, but it kind of saves on time a little bit. And the quality doesn't really suffer. So, it was a faster process. And just, but I think the result still holds up. But yeah, it's basically, it's move the tongue a little bit, take the pictures, move the tongue out a little bit, take the pictures, and keep going until, most of the shots we did were probably only like 4 or 5 seconds at the most,
Yeah.
but they would take hours to, from start to finish. So yeah, it's definitely a time consuming process for sure.
So then if you did the one frame, it would take 7 years to make it then, I guess.
Right? Doing the math, the simple math, yes.
Yes.
Actually, the first film I did take closer to 6 years, but that was more because I had a lot more going on in my life, and
Sure.
it's this with this one, it's 3.5 years, but it's not 3.5 years nonstop. It's not like I was working every day, 8 hours a day, for
Yeah.
3 years doing this.
Yeah.
You kind of get
Yeah.
around to what you can, yeah. So, but yeah, the first one took a little longer, and fortunately, hopefully for the next time, maybe I'll cut it down in half again, and maybe a year and a half it'll be over. So.
So the origin of this story for you is, according to your director statement, is that you drew the characters originally when you were 10 years old.
Yeah, so when I was about 10 years old, I had a comic strip called Lowdown Larry, and it was just a series of sort of misadventures of this character. And the idea was always that he never gets the goal. He never gets what he's aiming for, right? So in the first film, he's supposed to be the first person to land on the moon, right? So
Yeah.
he gets to the moon and he finds out, not only are the Apollo 11 astronauts here, but in fact there's an invading alien Martian invasion behind them as well. So he missed that goal. This one, it's obviously to go back in time and be the first person to bring a dinosaur, to present day. And lo and behold, his great 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 grandfather and his dog decide to hijack the time machine and take off with it. So obviously he's missing that goal as well. But yeah, it was a comic strip character from when I was about 10 years old. Yeah, that's the
That's
origin.
amazing. It really is. And so when the first film is made, you must have been euphoric, I'm assuming, because it's like, look what I did. I came up with this idea when I was 10, and now there's a movie.
Well, yeah, I'd always been, I mean, everyone I've always been like really into stop motion, sort of like a thing with with the group of people that I know, So and I've always, I've kind of done little bits here and there, like little shorts, like little just kind of like tests of things, whatever. Nothing really serious. But it was about 12 years ago, I decided, you know what, I actually really want to go make something. I actually want to make a film, a stop motion film. I went to film school, I call myself a filmmaker, I should actually go make a film, something that, I can put on a screen and, have an audience and watch. So I decided, so I was like, oh, what can I do? I was like, oh, well, actually, you know what? There is a character already that I have back in the, in the recesses of my brain that I can resurrect and have him be the character. So that's sort of like one step taken care of already. I don't have to come up with a character. I already have one. So yeah, so bringing that one to life, and now that came out about 5 years ago. It was really cool. Definitely, won some awards and was shown at some festivals, and it was cool. It was a real great experience to see, the character on screen. And at that point, everyone was asking, oh, is there going to be a sequel? And I was like, well, and people were like, oh, like, what do you think it should be? I'm like, well, I don't know, I kind of have an idea. Maybe going back in time would be a fun idea, and so I got on a phone with my friend Lenny. I'm like, Len, he's like, you want to do some dinosaurs? And he's always into doing sculpting and doing as much as he can with that. And he's like, yeah, I'm on it, Sam. Let's do it. So, and that was that. So that was sort of the origin of the second one. Just basically people asking, is there a second one? I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, I guess there will be, and because everyone likes this one so much, and the dinosaur idea took off for that. Yeah.
Is there any ways, because I've been looking on online, is there any way where we can watch the first film, or is there you like?
Well, I was actually thinking of maybe submitting that to this festival as well. I don't know if there's any time, frame.
No, we're going to show it. Trust me.
All right, then I think maybe I'll do that then. I think I'll submit it on your guys' film festival. It was really cool, a really great experience.
But do you want to like showcase it to the world?
Sure. I mean, of course. I mean, that's sort of, it's, art that no one ever sees is, it's not really, I mean, it's art, but it's like, you make it to be shown, to be shared. So I guess, yeah, I mean, definitely.
Because these films have a chance to go viral, right? Because there's a nostalgic factor, but it's also for kids. Kids can watch it as well, right? So,
well, actually, I just won the for the Brooklyn Film Festival. It was entered into the Kids Film Fest, which is sort of like a part of the Brooklyn Film Festival.
Yeah,
and it actually got the audience award for that. So Kids Film Fest. So I was very proud of that, actually.
So it's basically it crosses generations. It's got there's different people are watching the film from different perspectives, right? So
yeah. I mean, it's I mean, my two girls actually they're big fans of it. They're 12 and 9, and they actually helped. They worked on the film, and yeah, it's really cool for them to go to the movies and see daddy's work on the screen. So, and their names up on the screen as well. So
they would love it. And so I'm assuming your better half or your wife is okay with you spending all the time doing play or
yeah playing with toys in the living room.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah.
Well, that's actually, that was one of the biggest challenges of making this film. Actually, I don't have really have any kind of studio to speak of. The studio space is basically what you're seeing behind me. Okay, which is all windows, if you can see that.
Yeah.
So that's both a blessing and a curse for working with stop motion, because you don't want stop motion looking like time lapse. Okay, so you don't want to. So if you're dealing with natural light, it's going to be variable as you go minute by minute, hour by hour.
Yeah.
So I had to be very careful to make sure that we kept the lighting consistent through the shots, and also just having a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old running around while we have this very precarious setup in the middle of the living room. Make sure they don't nothing gets knocked over, and people are getting having dinner and talking and doing their homework back and forth, and it was challenging to the environment. So that was actually one of the things that we needed to make sure that wasn't an issue. The studio space, because it's literally living room. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I have two young children myself, so I don't know. I kind of I can see I'm imagining. I don't know how you pulled it off. And
It's mostly please, please, just hold, just don't run by yet, please, please, for one more minute. And it's like, okay, 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 daddy, I'll wait. But sometimes, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and might have to like retake the frame or something if the background shakes or something while they're while they're running. So, and that happened a few times.
so, but the value of these of your characters is like you don't want to recreate them, right? You don't want them to get damaged. You want them to be safe.
Yeah, and like I said, since this took about 3 years or
Yeah,
so, it's we have to like keep them in a safe
continuity.
place, in up and keep them, where they can't get destroyed or but they do over time though, they were just by virtue of the fact that they are clay, they will start cracking, and so we'd have to touch them up and fix them here and there. And a lot of what I had to do also in post was to do what I call like digital makeup, where I would just actually in After Effects just kind of have to like cover over a lot of the cracks, a lot of the lines that just kind of formed over, like a lot of the joints, would just sort of like break open, and in the middle of the shot, and you're pulling the arm back, whatever, and all of a sudden there's a crack in the
Yeah,
elbow, whatever. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to, like, we can't reshoot that because we're dealing with, everyone's schedule. It's not that easy to get everyone together, So I'm like, you know what? I'll just, fix it in post. I know that's like a thing that everyone says, which is not, it's the best idea, but fix it in post. And
fix it in
fortunately, I
post.
was able to, yeah, fix it in post, right? So that's always the thing. And it seemed to work for the most part. I mean, I think I covered up the blemishes enough where unless you're really looking for them, you're not going to notice where, oh, by the way, see, there's this crack in the dinosaur's neck where it shouldn't be or whatever. So, and in the process, I kind of taught myself After Effects while doing that. So it's sort of a bonus. I fixed the film and I learned a skill as I was going. So,
So tell me, okay, tell me more about post production because the it's a great sound design. So who did the sound design?
the sound design was basically, I mean, I did the sound design in the sense that I just went online and looked for, generic music and generic sound effects,
Yeah,
like that I was able to like, get, for a licensing fee or whatever. And, but it was really my first time. I mean, the first film has I guess a pretty good soundtrack, but this one is, I think, a lot deeper. It's a lot more layered, I think,
yeah.
way more than the first one. And I will submit the first one, so you'll definitely get a chance to see that one too. But you'll see the difference. I mean, dealing with all the jungle sounds, the dinosaur growls, like the time machine, the whirly, the fans, and the sound of the lightning bolts coming down when the time machine's appearing, like all that stuff. I had to like, basically dig up. I had to go up, on this website that just, sells sounds and music, whatever. And I had to layer it all in and, just kind of make it work. And I'd never really been an audio person, in the past. I mean, definitely more a video, video editing and everything. But usually the audio is kind of left to like the audio guys, it's sort of like it's its own art form,
Hmm.
and I just never really did too much of it. But with this one, I was kind of like, I was like, you know what? Instead of paying somebody to do this, let me kind of just try to figure it out on my own, like really, and do it really, like seriously. Like I said, the first film, I mean, I don't think it sounds bad by any means, but this one, I think it sounds a lot better, a lot more professional done. So
Yeah, well, good because we're in this fantasy world and it's animation, but it sets the tone of your film so much, like the sound design, especially like in animation films in general, right? But it really kind of like adds the nuance, it adds the reality to this film.
well, I think it was George Lucas himself actually said that sound is about 50% of the movie experience, right? So at least 50%. So yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, and also by just because the fact that there's no dialogue in this movie, that the sound is everything. The sound, the
Yeah.
visuals are everything. So that has to carry the story as importantly as the visuals. I mean, you kind of have to, it's got to have good sound. It has to kind of make sense and make sense for the film. It has to be, whether, like I said, whether it's the sound of Time Machine or the dinosaurs, and making sure that syncing up the sounds of the growls with the with the puppets, like that's kind of tricky too and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think it turned out pretty well. So hopefully,
Well, we're talking
everyone
about
liked
it.
it.
I think it did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
seen the animation film Triplets of Belleville?
Yes, yes, I did see that actually, and must have been about 12, no, about 20 years ago actually. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
about
I think
20
it's
years ago I saw that in the movies.
2004.
Yep,
But it's
yep,
no
yep,
dialogue, right? No, it's all sound design, and it was
yep.
like kind of remind me of it because it's like you're just it's this is that's a feature that's 7 minutes, but at the same time, it's like you're telling the story through the sound design, right? So you're telling the emotion through the sound design, right? So
Well, to me, I think cinema is in its purest form when it's just, sound and visuals. To me, and maybe that's sort of like my film, filmmaker past, my filmmaker education or whatever. But I always enjoyed seeing silent films. And knowing that they were never really totally silent, there's always like, accompanying music behind them or whatever. If you're
mhm.
seeing a film in the movie theater back in the 1910s or 20s or whatever. But to me, the sort of marriage of the visual and the audio together, and telling the story just through a series of images and sounds, to me is sort of like cinema in its purest form. So when it came time to to do Larry, I kind of wanted it to adopt that format and
Yeah,
just have it all be visual, and
it's
just
funny.
with no, yeah.
The film's funny too, right? So like it's got that Shaun the Sheep vibe to it, right?
Yes.
So then that's what I'm thinking. Like it's like this is a great TV show, but then this is then it becomes a machine where like you're kind of like overseeing everything. So you bring all these brilliant people in to kind of oversee your vision, right? So it can get done in a couple few months, not in 3.5 years, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing with all this. And I guess this is, some kind of promotion, trying to, get people to
Yeah.
see sort of exposure to what I can do. So yeah.
So that's why my little marketing theory is that it could get, and it seems like it looked like you worked in advertising, so you probably know a lot more than I do. But it's like if it goes viral, right? Like it captures the attention of people online, then you'll get more attention, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now it's, like I said, I'm definitely doing the festival circuit
Yeah.
now. I mean, I'm trying to get it. I know, there's been a lot of links to the movie on several festivals and several, So yeah, I mean, it's getting out there. It just started like 2 months ago, so it hasn't been out that long. So,
Oh wow, you
but
started
yeah,
two
I mean,
months ago. Oh, you're basically well, you're blowing up as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you got some
oh
pretty
yeah, no,
big
yeah,
festivals. Yeah,
yeah. The first festival was only in early May. That was the Coney Island Film Festival. So
which is a
that was the
great
first one.
festival.
That's
I've been there. It's a great festival, so it's a good festival
Yep,
to be to.
yep. Actually, it did win Best Animation there, so I'm very proud of that. So
No doubt. Yeah. In Brooklyn, you're at Brooklyn Film Festival as well, right? You did.
Brooklyn won the Kids Film Fest award. Yes,
Yeah.
the audience award. Yeah,
And,
yep.
yeah. All right. So you're getting there. So basically you're like, yeah. All right. Well, I think it's a great film. I really truly believe that. And it's like, and I never heard of that. So I got to remember not cosplay, but cosplay, right? So
Cosplay, yes,
yeah.
cosplay, yes. It's like I
And
said, it's sort of a mix between clay and resin. But yeah, it worked pretty well.
because I don't see this anywhere. I don't know if, like there's other examples, but I just thought that it just really stood out. Like the film stands out just from a film nerd standpoint, right? Because it's like what is this? It's just really cool.
Well, it's definitely an homage to lots of things. It's an
Yeah.
homage to, to 50s and 60s B movies and, Ray Harryhausen and, all of those things. Rankin Bass, the guys who did, Rudolph and the Frosty, all those cartoons. And, it's sort of like an homage to all that, for sure.
So one last question before I leave you. In your bio, you talked about like really liking 1960s sitcoms, and
Sure.
I'm curious because I went on this 1970s run where I'm watching all these like great 70s sitcoms, like obviously MASH and Mary Tyler Moore Show and All in the Family, Rhoda,
Well,
like
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that. I mean, yeah. I mean, we have this. There's a station on that I watch all the time here, called Me TV, and all they do is play, day in and day out, shows from the 60s and 70s, and that's pretty much. I mean, it's what I grew up on. So obviously, I mean, I know Star Trek's not really a sitcom, but stuff like Star Trek and things like, I don't know, so many different shows
that's
from
what I'm
the
asking.
60s.
The question is what advice, what recommendations do you have for 60 sitcoms?
Um, it's funny you have me on the spot now. I'm trying to trying to recall exactly. I guess um, uh, you know what? I'm drawing a blank right now as to exactly what. And this sounds like horrible. It's like you're asking a question I can't answer. I kind of like want you to like cut this part out of the interview.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't. I don't know. But sitcom. I mean, things like I don't know. Things like okay, like F Troop. Things like Bewitched. Things like no, that's coming to me. Okay, things like that. Shows like that. Get Smart. Shows like that, yeah. So it just came to me.
I Dream of
I
Jeannie.
Dream of Genie. I Dream of Genie. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Monkeys.
Um,
No, is it the
the
Monkeys? Yeah.
Monkeys. The
That's
monk. I was the Monkeys late 60s. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good show. I remember watching it. Yeah. All right,
The
I got
Monkeys. Yeah.
you.
No, the monk. Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke Show, right? That was the 60s.
It was. Yeah, that was a little earlier 60s. But I never a huge fan of Dick Van Dyke. But I definitely respect the show. But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, and he's still alive. That guy. I mean, he's like one of the last like old school TV actors and movie actors, and it's amazing.
Yeah, he goes to the gym every day, right? Goes to the gym every day, and he eats ice cream for dessert every night. And he's like 100 years old.
Yeah, well, you can never tell. Some people it's just it's genes. Sometimes you can never. Some people just have the good genes, but yeah.
I think he didn't partake in the partying scene of the entertainment industry which a lot of them did too, right? So
Yeah. But no, oh, I just thought of another Hogan's Heroes. There you go. There's another one
Hogan's
just popped
Heroes,
into my
gotcha.
head. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. They're popping in slowly. Okay.
that was the one. That was the one where he's in a concentration camp.
Yeah. It's kind of like, and people they got a lot of flack about it. Like, what's so funny about that? But it's actually they pulled it up pretty well. So
It doesn't really hold up now, right? So you can't make that show now, right?
right. Well, that's so true. That's true of a lot of shows now, obviously. Yeah. But at the time it was funny, and it still is. You can still watch it. But
the interesting thing about that show is that the producer of that show ended up being the producer of The Godfather. So
oh, I didn't know that actually.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically, Reddy, I can't remember his first name. Yeah, so he moved to movies, and his first movie was The Godfather. So for Hogan's Heroes, The Godfather. Yeah,
that's an interesting connection there. Yeah,
I haven't watched that show yet. So sorry, I was just looking for recommendations because I did the whole 70s thing, and I want to go back to the 60s. So I'll check it out because some brilliant stuff that hold up. Like I believe Mary Tyler Moore Show holds up today. Everybody should watch that show. It's really great. So
no, I mean I'm definitely a big fan of like all things 70s. Obviously, The Odd Couple, Twilight Zone. I mean, these are some of my favorite shows. All the Family, like you mentioned. All that stuff. MASH. I watch all the time as well. So yeah, it's all good stuff.
all right, man. Well, let's talk when we can do another podcast if you submit your first film, and we'll go back. We'll do the prequel and go from there.
Go back. Okay, that sounds great, Matthew.
I fixed your thing, by the way, and I'll send you a link when it goes up.
I appreciate it.
All right,
Thank
let's talk
so
soon.
much.
Let's talk soon, and I want to see you make the third film too. I know it takes a long time, but I love to see it.
All right, it's already it's in pre-production right now. We're got some sketches laid out, and yeah, it'll
you got two kids. You got free labor. Yeah.
they had a good time working on it. Actually my oldest daughter actually did the newspaper article in the beginning of the film.
Yeah,
she's a really good artist, so she did that. So and my other daughter did a background dinosaur. So yeah.
All right, let's talk again soon.
Thanks a lot, Matthew. Take care.